Are the Cowboys watching their top defensive coordinator options slip away right in front of them? As rumors swirl about Dallas losing key candidates, fans are starting to wonder if the Brian Flores dream is already over. Some insiders say the Cowboys are falling behind in the coaching race, while others insist the front office has a quiet backup plan no one sees coming. So what's really happening behind closed doors, and who's still in play? One subtle clue in these rumors could reveal the Cowboys' true strategy, and it might surprise everyone. Dallas Cowboys fans, because the defensive coordinator search just took a turn that nobody was expecting, and honestly it's starting to feel a little uncomfortable. What looked like a wide-open opportunity to land a top-tier defensive mind is suddenly shrinking fast. And now the biggest question floating around Cowboys Nation is this: are the Cowboys losing control of their own search? Because multiple top candidates are coming off the board, interviews are quietly happening elsewhere, and that dream scenario involving Brian Flores might already be slipping away. When the Cowboys officially moved on from their previous defensive direction, the assumption was simple. This is the Dallas Cowboys, one of the most valuable franchises in sports. A team with elite defensive talent, all pros at multiple positions, and Super Bowl expectations every single year. Defensive coordinators should be lining up, right? That was the belief. But reality is starting to tell a very different story. Behind the scenes, league insiders are starting to whisper that Dallas may not be the most attractive landing spot that fans think it is. Not because of the roster. Not because of the talent. But because of control, pressure, and the way this organization operates from the very top. Let's start with the obvious name everyone keeps bringing up, Brian Flores. From the moment his name was linked to Dallas, fans went into full fantasy mode. Aggressive scheme, blitz creativity, toughness, accountability. Everything people feel this defense needs when January football arrives. Flores instantly became the dream hire. But that dream? It's starting to look more like wishful thinking. Flores has options. Real options. Teams that are willing to give him influence, trust, and the freedom to fully install his system without weekly second-guessing. And that's where Dallas may be losing ground. Because around the league, there's a growing perception that being a coordinator in Dallas isn't just about coaching football. It's about navigating politics, media pressure, and ownership involvement that goes far beyond the norm. And let's be honest, coordinators notice that stuff. While Cowboys fans were busy debating schemes and personnel fits, other teams were moving quietly but decisively. Interviews wrapped up. Offers were made. Verbal agreements happened. And suddenly, names that were once considered realistic options for Dallas are no longer available. That's not speculation. That's how these hiring cycles always work. You blink, and the market moves on without you. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Reports suggest that some candidates may be hesitant about Dallas because of the short leash. The expectations are sky high, but the patience? Not so much. One bad playoff performance and fingers start pointing everywhere. One late season collapse and the narrative flips instantly. For a defensive coordinator trying to rebuild or retool a unit, that environment can feel like a trap rather than an opportunity. And then there's the elephant in the room. Jerry Jones. No matter how much fans try to ignore it, every coach and coordinator around the league knows the deal. Jerry is involved. Very involved. Sometimes supportive, sometimes unpredictable. For certain personalities, that's exciting. For others, it's a red flag. Some coaches want collaboration. Others want autonomy. And when you're competing with teams offering both job security and creative freedom, Dallas suddenly doesn't look like the slam dunk option it used to be. That's why the Brian Flores talk is starting to cool off. Not because he wouldn't be a great fit on the field, but because the off-field dynamics matter just as much. Flores has been through situations where power struggles and front office friction became exhausting. If he has a chance to avoid that altogether, why wouldn't he? Meanwhile, the Cowboys are reportedly pivoting. The search isn't over, but the strategy might be changing. Instead of chasing the biggest name on the market, Dallas could be leaning towards someone more familiar with the organization's structure. Someone who understands how things work in that building. Someone who won't rock the boat too aggressively. And that's where fans start to worry. Because familiarity doesn't always equal progress. The fear is that Dallas settles. That instead of swinging big and taking a bold risk, they choose a safer option that maintains the status quo. And Cowboys fans have seen how that movie ends before. Strong regular seasons. Flashy stats. Then the same defensive breakdowns when the lights are brightest. Let's talk football for a second, because the scheme matters here. This defense has speed. It has playmakers. It has stars who can take over games. But it also has shown vulnerability against disciplined offenses, motion, misdirection, and physical running games. That's not a talent issue. That's a preparation and adaptability issue. And that's exactly why fans wanted a guy like Flores, someone who adjusts, attacks weaknesses, and isn't afraid to change week to week. If Dallas misses out on that level of mind, the question becomes, can the next hire elevate this group, or are we just rearranging the furniture? Another concern is timing. The longer this search drags on, the fewer elite options remain. Installations get rushed. Staffs get pieced together late. And continuity suffers. Defensive systems aren't plug and play. They require buy-in, reps, and trust. Every week that passes without clarity matters more than fans realize. And let's not ignore how players feel. Players pay attention. They hear the rumors. They see who's being interviewed and who's turning the job down. If the perception becomes that top coaches don't want to come to Dallas, that creates a ripple effect inside the locker room. Confidence matters. Belief matters. Now, none of this means the Cowboys are doomed. Not even close. There are still capable coaches out there. There are still smart football minds who could step in and do a solid job. But solid isn't what this fanbase wants anymore. Solid doesn't get you past the divisional round. Solid doesn't silence the critics. The window is now. The roster is now. The expectations are now. That's why this defensive coordinator hire might be one of the most important decisions this franchise makes in years. More important than some draft picks. More important than some free agent signings. Because this choice will define how this team responds when things get hard. So where does that leave the Brian Flores dream? Realistically, it's fading. Not officially dead, but no longer the frontrunner fans hoped for. And unless Dallas is willing to offer more than just the Cowboys brand, more control, more trust, more stability, it's hard to see how they win that battle. The next few days are critical. If a surprise interview leaks, if a dark horse candidate emerges, if Jerry Jones makes a decisive move, the narrative could flip quickly. But if more names continue to disappear and Dallas keeps waiting, the pressure will only grow louder. Because Cowboys Nation is watching. The league is watching. And this hire will tell us a lot about whether this organization is truly ready to change or if it's comfortable staying exactly where it's been. If you want the latest updates on this coaching search, real Cowboys rumors, and honest breakdowns without the sugarcoating, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Because this story is far from over and the next move Dallas makes could change everything.